Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA, episode 215. I am Brendan. UFC Fight Night, Strickland versus Imavov. We are going to cover the prelims here. If you're looking for the main event, the main card, that's in the last one. This is just the prelims, okay? So we're going to cover Javid Basharat versus Mateus Mendonca, Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribeiro, Mateus Rebeki versus... That's not Rebeki. That's not how you pronounce it. I have it. Rębecki versus Nick Fiore, and the other three fights that are on the prelim. So we're going to cover those here. Before we get started, if you like MMA, you like podcasts about MMA, subscribe to the channel so you know when the next video is coming out. I cover UFC, Bellator, PFL, 1FC. I cover all that stuff. I do fight breakdowns round by round. I give my decision versus the decision. I try to understand bad ones. We do all this stuff here. Do MMA discussions. What techniques are best? All that stuff. I cover that here. Let's get started. Real quick, another shout out. Shout out to 10th Planet Lombard. Okay, so in my local area, there's 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu Gym, started by Eddie Bravo. Then there's one in Chicago, and then there's a couple out in the suburbs. There's one in Lombard. It's excellent. I went there today. My throat might sound a little hoarse because those very polite gentlemen at 10th Planet strangled the ever-living crap out of me. No, Omar, the owner, excellent. I'll drop his information and the dojo's name, like information down in the description down below. I highly recommend it. I've only been there once, right? So I don't know how their classes go, but judging by the feel, how welcoming they are, just everybody's like the people who are regulars. It's very nice there, and I got to roll. I got to roll with the owner, and he was very polite. Let's put it that way. It could have been. How do I put this? I told him beforehand. I was like, "Hey, man, like this is basically day one for me. I haven't grappled in years. I'm very out of shape for this kind of stuff." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no problem, no problem." And then I told him, I'm like, "Hey, you're more than welcome to pretzel me. Don't hold back. Go, go ham. Do what you got to do." Because he's smaller than I am, right? So I'm much bigger than he is. So I figure if I let him go hard, I can, hold him back a little bit. Dude, he immediately took bottom position and then got into a deep half and then was very, very generous. He was very nice. And he like slowly worked his way to taking my freaking back. Dude, he was so nice. It was fun because I got to see he was doing it almost in slow motion, basically giving me plenty of opportunity to screw up. And he was just an awesome guy. It was very nice to meet him. Like I said, I'll drop information down below for that stuff. We are going to get into the fights now. I just had to give him a shout out because they were super cool. All right. Mateus Mendonca versus Javid Basharat. We're going to cover that fight first here. Also, if you're looking for a specific fight breakdown, they're in the timestamps down below in the description. Okay, so Javid. This is one-way traffic, man. One-way traffic. Adelaide Bird was working this card? That makes sense. That makes sense. Dude, look at her freaking. Look at this. We got to look at that, but we'll get to it in a second. Anyway, because I want to break it down because Basharat did an excellent job. He did everything perfect, and Mateusz was just a whirlwind of stupidity and inexperience, in my opinion. Right? It's not that he's not skilled or doesn't have the ability to obviously make it to the next level here. It's just he came in undefeated. Both these guys were undefeated, and sorry, not only is my throat busted up from the guys choking me, I still got the nose thing from the cat. Anyway, so I recommend watching this fight. If you didn't watch the prelims, go back and go watch this one. It goes the distance, but I recommend watching this. It's a good breakdown of two up-and-comers, one with a little bit more experience, a little bit more measured in Javid, and then Mateusz coming in there like a whirlwind, trying to get something done and, using what's worked for him in the past, and it just didn't work here. So Mendonca was moving forward, trying to throw really big things. Javid was more patient, but also not holding center, right? being patient in a fight is beneficial if that's part of your game plan or if you made that adjustment to account for some things that you're seeing from your opponent. It's okay to be patient, right? Obviously, patience, they say patience is a virtue, but that's not what I mean. So patience can allow you to see things. It can allow you to take your time. It can conserve some of your energy, but being what I hate hearing, especially from commentary, they didn't say this. I'm saying this, right? I hear it a lot more in another organization, and I've been hard on the guy, and I'm going to try not to be hard on him anymore. That's not true. I'm going to do what I want. Anyway, he always said, oh, look how patient he's being. Look how patient. Look how patient. Dude, patience can only get you so far. You got to attack at some point. You got to do something. You got to put out offense. Patience is not offense. But so I noticed that. I'm like, oh, man, if Mendonca gets in there and he's just really aggressive and it's throwing Basharat off and he's like, that's what I was worried about watching this. Then Mateus, he landed a low kick that took Javid off balance. That's why maybe why Adelaide Bird gave him the first round. That's the only round that you can give Mateus, by the way. We'll look at the striking numbers, but 32-12 in favor of Javid. And there were significant ones. Javid was landing. Oh, Mateus attempted all kinds of dumb shit, like flying knee from way out where he wasn't going to land it, a cartwheel kick that didn't do anything. But the things that are landing were his straight punches, right? He was landing stuff. I mean, he landed 14, what did I say, 14 shots? 12. So he landed 12 shots. It's not like he didn't land anything this round. It's just the ones that were landing. Oh, 14 was the total strikes. Sorry. So it's not like he didn't land anything. It's just that the things that were landing weren't the crazy bullcrap. It was the traditional up the middle or through, like down the line, down the pipe, straight shots. Maybe even a hook or two. You know, that stuff can work. You know, low kicks. Those things all work. And then you can throw in your crazy shit. But when you're banking on that to be the end all be all, I mean, he attempted 43 strikes in this first round and only landed 12. Right? And I know, for those of you guys who know me, you know that I'm not a big proponent of touting striking accuracy as being a virtue or a signal of winning a fight, because it's not. In this case, I'm using it to break it down to say, hey, this guy is throwing a bunch of useless crap out there. And I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I think this is important. These are two highly touted prospects, two undefeated guys. And one of them, Mendonca, is coming from Charles Oliveira's camp, right? And Nova União, I think. No. Chuto Box, Brazil? Not Nova União. Anyway, so he's got the power behind him. He's got, I'm guessing the UFC brass is willing to put up with some stuff with him and kind of push him forward. And he comes out there like a banshee and just doesn't do shit. Javid landed after Mateus misses big every single time. And then including this huge straight left hand, which was the biggest shot of the first round. Javid landed a really good left hand. Again, Javid got a takedown and landing some really good ground and pound on the way up. He landed well. Javid was a cleaner striker. Mateus landed some big stuff. It was close. This first round is what I wrote down. So maybe I'm not being... Maybe I'm being too critical of Bird, but I still felt like Javid did more damage when he actually landed. I mean, he did outland him by 20 strikes. Do you think those 12 strikes from Mendonca landed with more emphasis and did more damage to Javid than the total 32 strikes? I don't think so. Even if you say, oh, one big punch counts for 10, that's fine. He didn't do that. He didn't land those. Second round. Javid defended a takedown, pushed him away after they got up in like right into the clinch. Mateus actually landed a right hand and many jabs, then got a takedown. But then Javid landed an elbow, some punches in the transition. He kept the top pressure. Oh wait, did I write Mateus landed a right hand? No, he got taken down. He didn't get the takedown. Javid got the takedown. Oh no. They both got takedowns. What did I write? Anyway, Javid ended up getting on top and landing elbows, so he outstruck him 35-7 in this round. The gap was even larger than it was in the first round. I had this one, he landed some punches in transition. He kept really good top pressure. It was 20-18 in my opinion. Then Javid landed a leaping in jab and a straight as he backs up and plants. Javid worked through the dangerous guard, which is what they talked about. So at one of Mendonca, so they were talking about him having this dangerous guard and being like this aggressive, blah blah. Basically, Charles Oliveira, right? That's what they're trying to compare him to. Javid just worked right through it, and it applies. Yeah, I'm an ass. I wrote down dangerous guard in quotation marks. And applied Javid applied really good top pressure again and stayed on top for a lot of this last round, 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So half of the round he was on top in control. I gave it to him 30-27. Let's look at the scorecard. He also made a good point in his post-fight interview that I want to talk about. Adelaide Bird did give Mendonca that first round. Okay. I can see it. I don't agree with it, but I can see it. Yeah. All right. So there's that. Mateus actually, Javid, after the fight, he said, "Hey, I'm ready for a ranked opponent. I should be ranked right now." He's like, "I'm fighting these guys who are undefeated with no names. Like, I'm fighting these challenges, like these up and comers. Like he's like, some of these other people in this division who are ranked above me, in the bantamweight division. Let's look at that real quick. So some of these other people, like Saeed Nurmagomedov, Jack Shore, Adrian Yanez, Chris Gutierrez, Umar Nurmagomedov, all these people, he's like, all these people above me, like, are they really fighting people, that are the up-and-comers? Are they fighting the toughest challenge, or are they fighting aging veterans and getting not necessarily an easy win, but an easier win than they could be if they were fighting some of the people that Javid is fighting, right? And let's look to that real quick before we move on. Tony Gravely, Trevin Jones, and then this guy. That was a Contender Series. So yeah, I mean, I agree with him. And then he called out Chris Gutierrez. You will not hear me say a bad word about Chris Gutierrez. I've met him in person on a hike. I've mentioned this before. He was very nice to me, and I'm not going to say a bad word about him. I think that fight will be fun. He's also a great fighter, and he doesn't come off like a bad guy anyway, right? It's not like me, being like, oh, I'm going to keep my distance from him, but I'm not going to say anything bad about it. There's nothing for me to say bad about him anyway. I'm just not going to come out here and say like, oh, Javid's going to smoke him. Like, I'm not going to say that crap. All right, let's move to this fight. Abdul Razak Alhassan versus Claudio Ribeiro. That's probably not how you pronounce that name with that stupid rolled R that I just did. So Claudio came in. Was he undefeated before this? Nope, was not. He came in. He's, again, a highly touted prospect. A whole bunch about grappling, a bunch of other stuff. Anyway, the guys, something that really annoyed the crap out of me in this was the walkout. Alhassan ends up getting the victory in the second round here. It was really good fight for him. Before they came out, the guy walking behind Claudio was making these stupid noises sound like whoop, whoop. Once or twice, fine. He did it the whole time. And I get it. Maybe if there's a crowd of people and you can't hear that, it's not a big deal. But it came across on the broadcast, and they're like, even Dominic Cruz was like, he's got an ambulance behind him. That's what it sounded like. It was annoying. So that instantly put me off, and I'm like, I hope this guy gets knocked out. Which isn't fair to him that he's not doing it. But anyway, Ribeiro landing some really hard leg kicks in this first round. Abdul drove him back against the fence. Claudio grabbed the fence. He seemed to recognize that he did something wrong, so he didn't. It didn't seem like he was doing it on purpose. Alhassan kept him against the fence for the rest of the round. So Claudio did outland him 14-9, but I felt like the 9 shots that Alhassan landed were enough, and he did have 3 minutes of control time. If you gave that first round to Claudio, I could understand it. I mean, let's see what the judges did. Wow, that's a very angry face. Nope. All 3 judges gave it to Alhassan. It's understandable. And then in the second round, the scorecards are moot. So Claudio started off with a calf kick and big hooks, and then Razak landed a big right hand, then another one, and oh man, he started unloading on him and then put Claudio down. Those right hands were bad, and he did some nasty damage with them. So that guy's legit. He hits hard. He's had his moments in the UFC, but he's also had his setbacks, right? Losing to Chaos, losing to Jacob Malkoon, Joaquin Buckley. But he's got a decent amount of wins himself, and he's been here since 2016 already. Lost to Omari Akhmedov, Masi twice, Nico Price. Yeah, I mean, he seems like he's a guy who can beat the up-and-comers, some of the lower-level guys, and he can beat them, but he's going to have problems against, like, highly skilled people. If you can avoid some of that power and drag him into deep water, he seems to have an issue. That seems to be the path to victory. All right, Mateusz. Okay, I wrote it. Rębecki. You look at this and you tell me how that's Rębecki. Now, I know that the E is supposed to have a little line on it. Like, it's not like an English E. But this is Mateusz Rębecki. Okay? Against Nick Fiore. So this one goes to the decision. It was a grapple fest. All right. Not so much in the first round, but in the second 2 rounds, it was really just Rebeki just staying on top. So Rebeki was moving forward, throwing hard hooks to the body, low kicks, looking for a short right hand. He didn't land a really big punch right onto the chin that put Fiore out, because that seemed like what he was trying to do. Fiore was backing up, taking way too much damage from the big shots. He just wasn't. None of them put him out, so he wasn't able to get the early end of the night that he wanted. Mateusz got the takedown, landed some good ground and pound to end the round. I had the first round 10-9. If you look at the 54-20 as the striking numbers, it was one way. Rębecki, he landed some really good hooks to the body. He was just pressing forward in the second round. Rębecki got tired, but Fiore got tired. If Fiore got the takedown, and then they ended up getting right back up. It turned a little bit sloppy, but Rębecki's cardio held up enough, and his hard shots were still getting thrown out there. So I had a 20-18 going into the third. And then this third round, he didn't land a lot of shots, so the second round was 23-11 in favor of Mateusz. And then in the third round, it was 12-3, so he didn't land a lot, but look at this, 4 minutes and 12 seconds of control time. So he was on top for virtually he was in control of that fight in the last round the entire time. I gave it a 10-8. That's why I gave it a 30-26 in favor of Rębecki. So great fight for him, dominant performance. Not one to go back and watch. You can skip that one. I mean, if you're into stuff like me, you're like looking for new talent and stuff and trying to keep up with the new guys coming in, I recommend going to watch it, because he does have some things that are kind of scary, but not one for entertainment value, put it that way. All right, Carlos Hernandez versus Allan Nascimento. Short one. Allan was trying to stay long, strike on the outside. Carlos was darting in and landing hooks. The front kick from Allan lands to the chin. Then he took the back after that, and he ended up getting the rear naked choke. So he took the back. It went down to the ground. Then Carlos stands up, but it wasn't enough. He submitted to the rear naked choke. All right. Not Archuleta, Argueta. Dan Argueta versus Nick Aguirre. Aguirre is how it was pronounced. Not Aguirre, Aguirre. So both guys from Illinois. I thought that was weird. Right? One of them was from Oswego, out in the burbs. One of them's from Oswego, and then one of them is from, like, originally from, I think it's Argueta. Where's he from? I don't know. I forget where he's from. But anyway, Nick Aguirre, I think, is fighting out of Illinois, which again is weird. Not a lot of fighters come from here and stay here. Dan was the one pressing forward, and he ended up getting the takedown. Dan picked him up and slammed him against the fence, Nick worked his way to reversing position, took the back, but Dan brute forced his way out of it and back on top. He was landing damage in transition. It was a good round for him. I had him up 10-9. Nick was looking a little tired, which is to be expected in his debut. So the first round, it wasn't a ton of striking, 5-1 in favor of Argueta. Second round, Dan kind of started being able to just, impose his will on him a little bit more. Nick was tired. It's his debut. He probably had a huge adrenaline dump. I mean, he had 3 minutes, Dan had 3 minutes and 22 seconds, 3 minutes and 28 seconds in the third round. He had over 3 minutes, almost 3.5 minutes in every single round of control time. And he was landing a lot of shots on top. Dan was really attacking the lead leg of Aguirre with low kicks. He got the takedown, stayed on top, and took the mount. It was another good round for him, 20-18. And then in the last round, both guys got a little tired and sloppy, but Dan got the takedown, kept him down for the rest of the round, 30-27. All right. And then the last fight we're going to cover here, first fight of the night, Jimmy Flick versus Charles Johnson. So Flick coming off of, I should switch back here. Sorry, guys. So Charles, this only lasted one round. Johnson ends up getting the finish. He was just landing way more. So Flick got the takedown, but it got reversed right away. He got stuck in his back, on his back in his guard. Johnson landed some clean kicks to the legs, his poking kicks to the body. I mean, he outlanded him 34-7. It wasn't even close. Flick was shelling up and not finding the mark with his own shots. Flick was on a double with 1:45 left, got the takedown, but he ended up falling off the back. It's a weird stoppage too, by the way. So Flick was fine. He was covering up, but he was also moving to improve position. I thought it was a bad stoppage in itself, right? So the stoppage itself was bad. Not that I felt like it was going to change the outcome. So here's what I mean. This is the last one, by the way. So we're not gonna. I'm not gonna try to drag this on too long. But just because you make the right decision doesn't mean you made it at the right time. Let me explain what I mean. So the right decision would be to stop this fight before Flick takes any more serious damage, right? But you have to make it at the right time. And Flick was still defending himself and still doing the things he needed to do. He was being aggressive off his back, and yeah, he was getting punched a little bit, but he was still actively defending himself. So whether you like that he's getting damaged or not, I'm not upset about it. I think it was here's the thing, is if this was for a title, people would be very upset at the stoppage. But because it was the very first fight on the card, people are like, whatever. And I go back and forth on this. Sometimes I feel that a championship fight should be reffed a little bit different. Like, you should allow a little bit more to make sure it's definitive. And then I think, hey, a fight is a fight, and the rules are the rules. If they apply equally, no matter if you're fighting for a title and $5 million or you're fighting, on the undercard and the opener in some weird Eastern European country, it doesn't matter. The rules are the rules. They should be applied evenly. He's like, but that's not how life works. Like, you don't get to just apply the rules evenly because it doesn't always make sense. And then on the other side, though, it's like, but who cares if it doesn't make sense? The rules are the rules. It's like, how many times is someone allowed to grab the fence? Zero. So you're supposed to take a point, right? But you give a warning at your discretion. Then you give them 2 warnings and 3 warnings and 4 warnings. Do you see what I mean? So if you give the guy 4 warnings for grabbing the fence, but then the next ref comes in and only gives him 1 warning and takes a point, how is that fair? How is that fair to the previous guy or the next guy? You know what I mean? And I don't want to hear like life's not fair. No, this isn't life, right? This isn't life. This is a sport or a game with rules. So I know this is kind of long-winded, but it's this kind of stuff that really matters. It's the nitty-gritty. You gotta apply. If you're going to start applying the rules, this is the best way to do it, right? So if you're going to say, hey, we're going to try something new. We're going to try saying, hey, if you get punched 5 times unanswered, we're stopping the fight. I think that's a dumb idea because 5 punches, what are they spaced out over a minute? Who cares? But if they're all within 5 seconds, now that's a problem, right? Do you know what I mean? But let's say if you take 5 unanswered punches, we're ending the fight. And I put that out there. And then you try it out. And then we realize, like, oh, we're getting a lot of bad stoppages this way. This is where you would test it out at the lowest level in the UFC. Actually, you should probably test it out in like Titan FC or something like that, or LFA. Anyway, I didn't like the stoppage. It didn't give me the warm and fuzzy of, oh, this was definitely how the fight ended. Like, it was more like, I mean, Johnson was winning and he was probably going to win. So, if I had to put money on it, I'm pretty confident that Johnson was going to win that fight. But that's not the rules. The rules aren't, I think this is how it's going to go, therefore I stop it. You kind of got to let it play out a little bit. And that's why I would do that. All right. That is it. Like I said, if you're looking for the main card and the main event, that's in the last video. I might cover some news this week because we had some big news about Francis Ngannou. So I might put out a video tomorrow covering the news from the weekend. I might make like a Monday thing. I might start doing that. So I'm not confident in it. Don't hold me to that one. If you made it this far, subscribe to the channel, please. I would really appreciate it. So when the next video is coming out, I do this. This is what I do. Fight breakdowns. I break down every single fight in the UFC. I break down pretty much every single fight in Bellator. I've been doing more ONE FC. I break down all the PFL stuff. So when that starts back, when the new PFL season comes up, I'm going to cover those. I might do some Ryzen. It's a little hard for me to watch those, but I could do those too. So subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. If this is the only video you watch this week, thank you. I appreciate it. It means a lot to me. It does. But if you're looking for the main card, it's in the last one. I also covered the ONE FC event. If you didn't watch that one, if you didn't watch the actual event, go watch the ONE FC event on Prime if you got a Prime membership. And then my breakdowns are in a couple videos ago, episode 213, I believe. So I appreciate it. Thank you so much for stopping by. Have an amazing week. I love y'all.